All right. So 10.2, we are talking about errors in hypothesis testing. Errors in hypothesis testing. So you guys have learned how to do a hypothesis test already. So you know that on our last step, the conclusion, you end up either rejecting the null hypothesis or failing to reject the null hypothesis, right? Just only those two options. So because of that, it is possible that you make the wrong decision. Even if you do the hypothesis test perfectly, it's just possible that when you reach your conclusion, it just wasn't the right conclusion. So, because of that, there are two types of errors with these two possible decisions. All right, so the first one is called type 1 error. All right, so this is what type 1 error is. It's the error of rejecting the null hypothesis when the null hypothesis is actually true. All right, it's the error of rejecting the null hypothesis when the null hypothesis is true. Okay, so like for example, going back to the murder trial. Oh gosh, who killed who and how?
I killed Jill.
Okay, that's right. All right, so Johnny, you killed Jill. How did you kill Jill again?
Do the laughing gas thing.
Oh, that's right. That's right. That's right. The psych episode. Okay, so Johnny killed Jill with laughing gas. So Johnny, you are on trial, right? Or you were on trial. What was the null hypothesis? What do we initially assume before trial even starts?
That I'm innocent.
Good. Okay, so we assume Johnny is innocent, right? So that's our null hypothesis. So this is what a type 1 error would look like in that case. The null hypothesis is true. Johnny is actually innocent, but we throw him in jail anyway. We convict him. That is a type 1 error. Johnny is innocent, but we convict him. We reject his innocence and we convict him. That is type 1 error. Okay? That's what type 1 error is. That's the definition. All right, so the probability of that happening for each hypothesis test, that is actually what the significance level is. All right, that whole alpha thing that Katrina, you asked about in the homework, that alpha we've been kind of playing with is the probability of a type 1 error. And does anybody remember what the name of that is? Like, what is that called? I'm not looking for like alpha. I'm asking, what does alpha stand for? Does anybody remember? Two words. Two words.
Significance level.
Ooh, nicely done. Good, Johnny. All right. Significance level. Yes. So alpha, that is called the significance level of the test. And that is the probability of type 1 error. Nice. Okay. Let me give you guys one more example. One more. This one's kind of a fun one. Okay. K-dramas. All right. I know some of you guys watch K-dramas. I do too. So this happens in K-dramas all the time. Type 1 error. Okay. So let's say the null hypothesis is that the guy, whoever the guy is actually a good guy, right? That's the null hypothesis. The alternative is that he is a jerk. Okay. He's a bad guy. So a type 1 error in this case would be that the truth is he is a good guy. But through some like misunderstanding or something, the girl believes he's a bad guy, that he's a jerk. Like she saw him like across the street one day and he was hanging out with like this beautiful woman. And she's like, oh, he's such a jerk. He's hanging out with this girl when I thought he liked me. And she's like, oh, she's a jerk. But then the truth is that was like his aunt. And she needed like his help with something and he was just helping her. So he's actually a good guy. So there was some misunderstanding, right? This actually happens with Pride and Prejudice. This is like Mr. Darcy, all right? Originally, think he's a jerk, he's awful, but actually he's a really, really good guy. All right, so Mr. Darcy, type 1 error. There you go. You're welcome, Mrs. Davidson, English teacher, throwing some literary knowledge in there. Okay. All right. Questions about type 1 error. Questions put in the chat. Unmute yourself. Let me know. Okay. All right. Let's go to type 2 error then. All right. So type 2 error. This is the error of failing to reject the null hypothesis when it is false. Failing to reject the null hypothesis when it is false. So going back to Johnny's trial, Johnny is actually guilty. He did it, Jill. It was him. All right. But type 2 error is we don't convict him. He did it, but he goes off scot-free. That is type 2 error. All right. So the probability of type 2 error is beta. No special name for it, not that I know of. It's denoted beta. All right, so going back to the K-drama example, this is when the truth is the guy's a jerk. All right, the guy's an actual jerk, but the girl doesn't think so. And you guys have all seen this too. Like, the guy puts up a front whenever she's around. He acts really sweet and nice, but in reality, he's a jerk. Those of you guys who watch The Bachelor or The Bachelorette, that happens all the time too. Okay. All right. So, and this actually happens in Pride and Prejudice. The guy that I think the younger sister ends up marrying, right? Like she thinks he's all great and stuff, but really he's a jerk. So that is type 2 error. Okay. Questions on type 2 error. So this is what I'm going to do. I have a chart here for you guys. So just in case, like I think sometimes it helps to see all of it in one picture, right? To get all of it in one picture. So that's what this chart is. I'm going to start calling on people to help me fill out this chart. So let me kind of explain. Basically, we have the truth up here, which is the null hypothesis could be true, or the truth could be that the null hypothesis is false, right? That Johnny is innocent, Johnny is guilty. Okay. And then this is on the left, our decision, right? We end up rejecting the null hypothesis. So we convict Johnny. Or we failed to reject the null hypothesis. We don't convict Johnny, right? We set him free. All right, so let's kind of fill out this chart. And in these boxes, you have basically 3 options. You either have a good decision, right? It was the right decision. A type 1 error happened, or a type 2 error happened. All right, so one of these 3 decisions will fill in each of these boxes. Okay, so I'm going to call on people. Let's see what you guys think. Let's start with this bottom left. Null hypothesis is true, but it is, and we failed to reject the null hypothesis. Okay, let's start with Brendan. Brendan, what do you think?
I think it's good.
Yes, nice. Good. So Johnny is innocent and null hypothesis true, and we don't throw him in jail. Great. So that's a good decision, right? Johnny's happy. All right, good job, Brendan. What about this next one? The null is true, but we reject the null hypothesis. Amanda, what do you think about this one?
I think that's a type 1.
Good. Nice. That is a type 1 error. Perfect. So Johnny is innocent, but we throw him in jail. Okay. All right. What about this one? The null hypothesis is false, and we reject it. Johnny himself. What do you think?
That would be good.
That is good. Well, not for you, but yes, in this case, you are guilty and we throw you in jail. So that is the right decision. That is the right decision. Good. Nice, Johnny. And Clarissa, what about this last one?
Type 2 error.
Nicely done. All right, that is type 2 error. Null is false, and we failed to reject. Okay. For us. All right.
Okay.
Go for it.
The U.S. Bureau of Transportation Statistics reports that 72% of all domestic passenger flights arrived on time, meaning within 15 minutes of its scheduled arrival time. So is that an airline with a poor on-time record decides to offer its employees a bonus if, in an upcoming month, the airline's proportion of on-time flights exceeds the overall industry rate of 0.72?
Perfect. Thank you. Okay, guys. So now we're going into an example. I want you to watch carefully, going through the steps again that I think helps make this process easier. Notice I have no question there for you yet. Essentially, the question is, what is a type 1 error in this context? And what is a type 2 error in this context? What I found is that students find it hard to jump straight from the problem to the type 1, type 2, writing the answers. So I've kind of built in a few steps in between to help you get there. All right, so on your notes, you see that I have state the hypothesis. This, I think, should be step 1. State what the null and alternative hypothesis is in like the symbols that you guys are used to. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to call on somebody and you're going to tell me what you think the null and alternative should be. All right. And Jill, what do you think?
I said the HO is 0.72.
Can you give me like the whole thing? Like H sub O?
Oh, H sub O equals 72, and then H sub A. I'm not sure if it's greater than or less than.
Okay. Sorry, it kind of started switching a little bit. Did you say anything in front of the equal to sign for the null?
P?
Oh, okay, good. Sorry, I wasn't sure if I heard that. Okay, so P is equal to 0.72. All right, and then P is, yeah, less than or greater than. Looking at the problem, what are you like?
It says exceed, so would that be more?
Yes, good.
Yeah.
Perfect. All right, nicely done. Okay, so that's your null and that's your alternative. Now, here is, I think, the key step to making this process a whole lot easier. Writing out what these actually mean in the context of the problem. Okay, so I always start with the alternative. It's always easier to start with the alternative. So write it in like a simple sentence. It does not have to be elaborate at all. So reading the problem, I know that the alternative means that the bonus helped improve the on-time rate. All right, so I'm going to say the bonus helped, or the bonus improved the on-time rate. Okay, so the bonus actually worked, which means the null is the opposite. The bonus didn't improve the on-time rate. All right. So those are the steps I would say leads you to success in writing the type 1 and type 2 errors. Okay, let me see if there's any questions about just that part first. Any questions? Okay, let me then keep typing it in the chat if you're typing in the chat. Let me go ahead and show you now how I do the type 1 and type 2 error. Okay, so type 1 error. So now this is how it gets real simple. Type 1 error. The first thing is true, right? So the top line is true. The bonus didn't improve the on-time rate. I'm literally copying it. So type 1, the bonus didn't improve the on-time rate, but we believe it did. That's it. All right, so type 1 error, the bonus didn't actually work, but the company believes that it worked. All right, so maybe not we, but the company believed it did. All right, so that's type 1. Type 2, the alternative is true. All right, so I state the alternative first as being true. So the bonus improved the on-time rate, but the company believes it did not. And that's it, guys. That's how you write a type 1 and type 2 error. Done. Okay. Questions. So for type 1, if we're thinking about like which one is worse, okay? Type 1, the bonus didn't improve the on-time rate, but the company believes it did. Like think about the company. Like the company's like, oh, the bonus is working. So it's like giving out these bonuses, but their on-time rate doesn't improve. So they're basically like wasting money, essentially. They're wasting money. All right, type 2, the consequence for that is, well, the bonus improved the on-time rate, but the company believes it didn't. So obviously the company's like, well, we're not going to use this bonus system. It doesn't work. But it actually does work. So this is bad, or the consequence is that the company loses out, like it misses out on this opportunity to improve their company, right? So type 1 error, they're like giving out money and they're losing money and it's not improving their company. Type 2 error, they miss out on this opportunity to grow their company. So I'm going to have you guys put in the chat, which one do you think is worse? So in the chat, give me a 1 or 2. Which one do you guys think is worse for the company? Okay. Getting a mixed bag. Okay. All right. Okay, got it. I like the explanation on that one. Okay, good. I'm getting a mixed bag. I will say more people are choosing 1 than 2, but it is a mix. I have numerous votes on both sides. Okay. There is no right answer, guys. There is no right answer. It really just depends on what you as a company value more. Do you value, like not throwing away money, okay, and having that capital, or do you value the quality of your company, right? So it just really depends, right? And every company has a different priorities. Okay, cool. Well, the reason why I'm asking you guys which one you think is worse is because that actually affects a few things. So let's talk about that. Keep that kind of in mind, which one you thought was worse. Well, first off, both of them are bad, right? Obviously, we don't want either of those things to happen. But unfortunately, it's just not possible to have both alpha and beta be equal to 0. Right? It's just not possible because we are using sample data. There is errors that happen, right? It's not a census. So there are, little margin of errors there because we're using sample data. So here's the idea though. The thing is, we actually do have control over alpha. Remember, alpha is the probability of type 1. We do have control over that. But we don't have control over beta. All right, we don't have control over beta. Just depending on what alpha is, that, there's this whole calculation that goes into what beta is. All right. And it just, there's a lot of things that depends, that go into calculating beta. So alpha is easy to control. We don't have direct control over beta. So the question is, well, why don't we just always choose a small alpha? Right? Why can't we always just choose a small alpha, lower the probability of type 1? Here's the reason why. As alpha decreases, beta increases. Okay? They have an inverse relationship. As you lower alpha, beta goes up. So those of you guys who voted for type 1 error, you're good in that, okay, you lowered alpha. There's a low chance of getting a type 1 error. But unfortunately, it means that you have a higher chance of getting a type 2 error. But since you said type 1 was worse, you might be okay with that. Now, those of you guys who voted for type 2 error being worse, well, here's the thing. You have no direct control over beta. We can't just say, oh, lower beta. We can't. We have no direct control over beta. But what you can do is you increase alpha. If you increase alpha, it decreases beta. So now you have a lower chance of getting a type 2 error, but you do have a higher chance of a type 1 error. Okay. Any questions on that before I have you guys try one on your own? All right, this is about unsafe water. All right, lead and unsafe water. Think like Flint, Michigan. Okay. So try it out. They kind of set up the null and alternative for you, but remember, make sure you write those out in words to help you set up what a type 1 and type 2 error is. Okay. So on the notes, the rest of the page, try it out. Once you're done, click the raise hand button and I can see when you are ready to go over it. Or if you get stuck, use the raise hand button. That's fine too. Okay. All right. Try it out. Example 3, all you guys. In this problem, they set it up for you. So just tell me what you would say the null and alternative hypothesis is in words first. Okay, so let me call on somebody. Let's go. Katrina, what do you think? How would you state the null and alternative, like kind of in your own words?
In my own words, I'm not very sure if I write the right thing, but like what I wrote is the drinking water is unsafe, but the result of the measurement is safe.
You can actually make it simpler than that. So wait, we're talking about the null hypothesis, right? Not type 1 error just yet. Just the null hypothesis in words.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't read that yet.
Okay, so yeah, I highly recommend starting there. Like write the null and alternative in words. So start with the alternative. What does like the mean being less than 15 mean about that water? Is it safe or unsafe?
It's unsafe.
If the lead is less than 15 parts per billion?
Safe.
It's actually safe. Yeah. Which means the null hypothesis is that the water is?
The water is safe.
Yeah.
No. Okay.
Not safe or unsafe. Yeah. There you go. Yeah, when you guys do that step, it doesn't have to be like really lengthy. It can be super short and sweet. What we care about is whether or not the water is safe. So that's it. That's all you need. Okay, cool. Thanks, Katrina. All right, next, Julia. Going into type 1 error. What did you say was type 1 error?
I said the water is unsafe, but the manager believes it to be safe.
Thank you. Nicely done. All right, so the water is actually unsafe, but the manager thinks it is safe. Good. And what was the consequence of that, Julia?
I said people could get.
Yeah, people get sick and could die from unsafe water. All right, good job. Okay, let's go to type 2 error. Going over to Nathan. What do you think about type 2 error? What'd you put?
I put the water is safe to drink, but the manager thinks it's unsafe.
Good. The manager thinks it is unsafe. Okay, and then what was the consequence of that, Nathan?
People don't drink the water.
True. Okay, well, what would the manager do? Would he just tell people like, "Hey, stop drinking water, guys. Don't take showers." Like, what if you were the manager and you thought, "Man, this water is not safe." What would you do to that water?
I guess like try to purify it or something.
Yeah, you would try to do something to it, right? You wouldn't just, I mean, uh, sorry, I was looking at the comment in the chat. So yeah, basically we do waste good water. So that's true. You waste good water, and you spend, or the manager spends money unnecessarily. I hope I spelled this right. Trying to purify the water that's already good. Something like that. All right, cool. Good job. So, which one's worse? I don't think this one's really up for argument, personally. But just in case, in the chat, put which one you thought was worse, 1 or 2. Okay, I'm glad we're on the same page. Good. Okay. So, yes, type 1 is way worse. Okay. It is definitely worse. So the question is, what should be done to decrease the probability of this type of error? Brendan, what did you say?
I said that they should decrease the amount of lead parts per billion deemed safe.
Oh,
But I don't know if that really solves it.
right. Yeah. Okay. Practically speaking, yes, you should decrease the lead in water. That would be good. I think what they're asking is in the hypothesis test. If you think type 1 is worse and you want to avoid it, between alpha and beta, like what do we do to alpha if we think type 1 is worse?
Do we like decrease it?
Yes. Good. Do you know why? Do you know what alpha stands for again?
Type 1.
Yeah, the probability of type 1. Yeah. So we want to decrease that probability. Since we think type 1 is worse, we want to avoid it at all costs. So we're going to decrease the alpha, decrease the significance level, since I don't know how to type alpha. But just in case there's somebody out there who just, really loves water and they think type 2 is worse, all right, here's the alternative. In case you had an argument for type 2 being worse, then you would say you would increase the alpha because that decreases beta. All right, so just argument's sake, in case you come across a situation where type 2 is worse, then what you would do is you would increase alpha because that's what you have control over. And if you increase alpha, it decreases beta. All right. There it is. Any questions? this example I'm going to show you guys to close off our lesson today, I think is very appropriate. A student sent this to me. When he went to college, he, did, I forgot what class it was, but they were talking about type 1 and type 2 errors. And then he took a picture of it and sent it to me. And I thought that was pretty appropriate since I'm going on maternity leave. So it all worked out. So yeah, type 1 error, false positive. Doctors telling the man with the mustache, you're pregnant. All right, type 2 error. This woman is telling this very pregnant lady, looks like she's, definitely in her 3rd trimester there, saying that you are not pregnant. Okay. So just a little fun example for you guys. Okay, that is it for today's lesson.